Cachemaniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Well, hello. You're not suffering from deja vu. You may be suffering from two. This is the 166th episode of the GeoGearHeads. I'm the bad cop for Daryl W4 and our returning guest, the developer of Project-GC.com. Welcome back, Magnus. Your second time here. Now, the first time was May 2014, so that was almost an entire year ago.
Well, thank you. And this time I at least don't have to go up early in the morning after speaking with you guys in the middle of the night. Because I remember I was quite tired last time.
Well, we didn't know that, okay? Because you sounded still good. But we're glad for that, and we were that you were able to join us in these strange hours, given the time difference.
Yeah, time zones are such a pain. It's bad enough that there's 3 hours between the bad cop and myself. But then there's 5 or 8 hours off from the UK, and we're going into daylight savings time this weekend to further confuse things. Yeah, it makes it really tough to schedule things with people all over the globe, and we really appreciate all of you for joining us live and who join us in the patron hangouts.
Now, Daryl, each week we get a lot of people that respond to the question we pose at the end of the show, and they just can't wait. They're literally chomping at the bit to find out who won that question. So, I think in honor of this week's show, for question 166, in honor of this week's show, last week we asked question 166. It's that time travel thing. I still haven't gotten it down yet. We asked what you had to do to qualify for the 366 calendar day challenges. Magnus, you've been hard at work at this since our last discussion on challenge checkers. So, can you tell us the answer?
Yes, I can. It's a challenge, and it's about finding a geocache on each day of a calendar year. And that includes the 29th of February then. It, of course, doesn't need to be consecutive days. So you can actually you can find it during several years and take a bit here and there for each year. But the conclusion is that you need at least one find for every calendar date.
Yeah, it's not the easiest challenge to describe, and we did get some good attempts, as well as some that were a little confusing. But in all, everyone that submitted an answer was close enough to get entered into the drawing, so Magnus will give you the honor of announcing this week's winner.
Thank you. That would be Brylang. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
I think you did, and congrats, Brylang. He chose a set of patches from coinsandpins.com as his prize, and I hope to get those out in the mail this week, along with the prizes from the last 2 weeks.
You know, Daryl, you're getting as bad as some of the other podcasts. But, you know what? Moving is hard. Don't get me wrong. That's why I don't plan to ever move again. So, did you finally find some of the lost mailing supplies in your move?
Yeah, I found some of them, and I'm really feeling bad about not having gotten out those prizes because I, do so well at it normally. But because I don't have most of the supplies, I think I'm going to be hand labeling and mailing this batch out in a couple of the padded envelopes that I've stumbled across. Not all of them, just I found a couple of them. Don't know where the rest went, but who knows? I might spot the missing supplies before I get to the post office.
Well, there you go. Well, good luck in all that. Now, last time we had a general overlook at what Project-GC.com could do. So if we remember that it was easy to think that it's all about stats, but that's not entirely true. I remember there were a lot of other tools, like tools to help you fill out the difficulty and terrain matrix, finding easier geocaches with specific months, for filling out that calendar, things like that.
Yeah, and the Discover Trackables tool was a big one too. Very easy to use when you have a number of the trackables to discover, and that's the gateway that many cachers have into Project-GC.
Is that like a gateway drug?
Yeah, pretty much.
And yes, that's actually true. Many people find ProGC due to that tool, and we have actually been rewriting the Discovery tool from scratch lately. It is very popular right now. We have almost 4.5 million trackables discovered through ProGC. Not unique ones, but still. The new interface is much more appealing than the old one. There's a history where everyone can see their own discovers, how it worked. So if they write a faulty trackable code, they can see that one failed, but the rest worked, and so on. I'm actually really satisfied with the new interface, and from what I can see, the users are as well.
Excellent. It sounds like it's a huge improvement. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it, so I probably should. The last time I think I actually used it was shortly after that show we did. There were a whole bunch of vehicle tags at an event that I discovered that way.
I also remember using the map compare tool, where this is so very cool. When you can compare geocachers' finds on a map to see which geocaches that none of those geocachers have logged. It's perfect when planning a small trip together.
Yeah, that would let you, cherry pick the caches and add them to a list and finally build the GPX file from it if you were the paying member. And that was a really cool feature, but I hear that's been changed as well.
We call this the virtual GPS system. The virtual GPS is quite much like a shopping cart. And as you mentioned, it's for paying members only. Even though most of ProGC is for free, we have to pay out servers and stuff. So we have chosen to have the most heavy features for supporters only. The virtual GPS system, and wherever you are at ProGC, you can cherry pick caches from maps and lists and top lists and so on, and put them into this shopping cart looking thing. From there you can filter, or you can share your list to other members and so on. And you can, as you mentioned, build GPX files. We did a total rewrite of this in the beginning of 2015, this year. And it's a lot faster than the old system and a lot more powerful. I think this is one of the bigger improvements of ProGC the last year. If you're interested to look into it, we have actually a movie that, or a video clip that shows how to use it. You can find it under project-gc.com/YouTube. The title of the video is Planning Geocaching Trips with ProGC. The downside with it is that the video actually shows the old virtual GPS system. But it's pretty much the same, and I don't think it will be an issue to actually understand the difference when you see it. I think it's worth looking at, definitely.
Nice. I like that idea. So we also understand that in the latest edition, there's something called auto challenge checkers. What can you tell us about that? Now, I've seen some challenge caches that has a checker image that links to Project-GC. Much like the mystery caches can link to a checker, it also has some numbers on it. I'd love to get a better understanding of what this is.
Yes, this is a very interesting topic, and it's quite new and hot at ProGC. But I think we'll have to back up a bit and start to talk a bit about the history behind it. It all started with the fact that I love challenges myself. However, some are very hard to actually know if you fulfill or not. So I started to write small code snippets to see if I completed them or not. And I mostly did that for myself. But of course, I started to realize that others would want it as well. So for some of the challenges, I released checkers, which could give feedback, either like, yes, you complete this, and here's an example log that you need to comply with the cache owner's requirements. Or maybe it could say that you have these 27 of 28 requirements, but you need to do this as well. Uh, let's see.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was the start. I didn't release many of them, but oh, sorry.
So I can definitely understand some of the problems there. I mean, it's pretty easy to say, you have the challenge is 1,000 finds, or or 100, what they call a century challenge. Have 100 or 1,000 finds, then you could go find this one. While others are actually really hard to know if you fulfill. I'm thinking of the 360-degree challenge. That's a tough one to calculate. And the reviewers challenge. That's not an easy one to come across either.
Yeah, the reviewer challenge is a quite good example because you probably don't know how many caches you have found by different reviewers from the top of your head. If you do, I am impressed. But yes, the whole concept starting to get quite popular, not only by caches but also by cache owners who wanted more logs on their challenges, and they wanted an easy way to check themselves if the finders actually fulfilled it. So it was from both finders and cache owners. So I started to make some more challenge checkers, but I also quite early started to realize that I couldn't keep doing this. At the time, there was about 15,000 challenges in the world. Making a checker for one or a checker for each of them would of course take a lot of time, even though many of them are quite the same. I also did some math on how many different challenges was released each day, and my estimate was that it was about 1.5 full-time job to actually produce checkers for all the challenges.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had some other things I actually wanted to do with my life as well, besides actually developing other things with Project GC. So I actually stopped completely with producing challenge checkers. But it wasn't just a stop. Everyone that contacted us, we said we have some plans. The plans are to have a plug-in system at Project GC or something like that. We just don't know how yet. But after some time, we could actually release something like that. I'm not sure when it was, but I think it's about 2 years ago we released our first so-called plug-in system for checkers. It was a good try. The concept worked, but it was very cumbersome to use. So those who contacted us and wanted to build checkers, they didn't really love it, if we say it like that. It was cumbersome, a lot of cumbersome. I think we got up to about 400 checkers developed, which isn't bad, but with between 15,000 20,000 challenges out there, it's not a lot. And around there at 400, the developers stopped working on them. I guess it wasn't interesting enough. But we also got a lot of feedback, which we collected. And I have some good friends who I spoke a lot with who had tested the system. And in October 2014, so just 4 months ago or so, we released what we called version 2 of the checker system. The new interface was a lot smoother. There was online editing, you got skeleton code when you create a new checker, and well, I had, for the sake of testing myself, taken a challenge cache, read the description, and I could create a checker in like 3-4 minutes. That is quite nice. It of course depends on what kind of challenge it is.
Of course. But, it still sounds like it's programming. So you still need to be a developer or know programming to create a checker, don't you?
Yes and no, but you are a bit correct. All the checkers for challenges are divided into 2 parts. First off, there is something called the script. Then we have something called the tag. The script is the code itself. Here you need to be a programmer or know how to program. The code itself is written in Lua, which is a programming language not very known, but it's great for this purpose. The tag is the more interesting part. The The tag is more like a configuration. It links a script. So every tag needs to use a script since the code is in a script. You can provide the script with parameters in this tag. For example, you can say that number of finds should be 1000, and the script has that as an input parameter. You also associate it with the GC code for a cache. So a good example could be that you have a script that checks that you have X finds. Then you can create a tag that says GC blah blah blah. You need to have 1000 finds, and 1000 is the parameter. Then you can create another tag that has 500 as that parameter. And creating these tags doesn't require any form of programming skills. However, having some form of knowledge with computers and experience is always easier when you...
And we may have lost him.
Yeah, it does appear that way.
You know what it sounds to me like, Daryl, is that's and I'm not a programmer. Well, maybe
Magnus, we got you back. We lost you a little while ago, and I've actually forgotten exactly where we were talking about the parameters in the scripts.
Okay, do you hear me now then?
Yep, yep, we're good now.
Oh, okay, technical wonders. I try to back up a bit and hope that I back up where I was.
Sounds good.
So I mentioned that the checkers are divided into scripts and tags, where scripts contain the code and the tag is more like a configuration. The tag links a script since it needs to have some code to run. It also links a GC code, so it's associated with the challenge cache. And besides that, it can provide parameters. If a script takes a parameter, for example, X finds, you provide that X into a script. So you can create a tag that says you need to have 1000 finds, and you can create another tag that says you need 500 finds, and they use the same script. Creating these tags does not require any knowledge in programming, even though it of course is great if you have some understanding of computers and experience. It usually is when you work with computers. Any user at PortGC can add these tags, but if you want to create the scripts, you need to contact our support and get the permissions for it. An interesting fact with our new system that there were thousands of checkers created just the first weeks, and that really is awesome. Today there are about 19,000 challenges in the world, and 40% of them has a checker at PortGC, all created in the period of about 4 months by the community. So if you look at challenge, there's almost a 50% chance that if you look up the challenge at PortGC, you can, by just entering your profile name, see if you complete it or not.
That's absolutely amazing. So I get the idea the tag is like an ini file in a Windows program. It just sends parameters to the script that's running. And it sounds like you've built a bunch of scriptlets or little pieces of code that you can just build together and with a tag feed it information.
Yes, all those scripts are built by the community, or I've made a few of them, but that's more like a handful. I try to avoid it since others can do it. I try to focus on things that actually others can't do instead. But yes, there's a lot of scripts created, and we have a few very dedicated people from the community who create a lot.
So do you think you'll be able to double that number of scripts by the end of 2015?
I wish, but to be honest, I doubt it. I would guess that checkers for 80% of the challenges in the world would be some form of theoretical maximum we can reach. The main reason is that some challenges are just impossible to check with a computer. An example could be log 100 geocaches close to a church. Log 100 geocaches is very easy to check with the computer, but close to a church is quite vague, and also ProjectGC doesn't know where all the churches in the world are. There are many other examples, and well, I at least hope that we can get up to maybe 70–80% somewhere. Then we'll have to see what happens in the future with challenges. The guidelines was updated, let's see, is it about 2 years ago? They made a quite huge overhaul, and they made more strict guidelines for challenges, and after that, those that are released after that are at least a lot easier to actually check with the computer.
Oh, interesting. I like that. Now, so maybe 70% could be something we shoot for, but let's jump into these auto checkers and those checker images.
Yes, thank you. Auto checkers was something that we actually released just a few weeks ago. I don't remember exactly. The point is that for our paying members, we have a 12 CPU core server that is 24/7 calculating if our members have completed the challenges or not. It does that in the background, and it prioritizes challenges close to the home locations, since they usually are more relevant. But on the other hand, if you're out traveling, you want to know if you complete challenges there as well. So we do calculate the whole world. We just can't calculate 19,000 challenges for each user every day. So we then store this data, if you complete the different challenges or not, and we more or less use them for three purposes. On every map at ProjectGC, where you can see geocaches, you will immediately be able to see if you fulfill that challenge or not by a little small icon in the down left corner of the cache icon itself. It will either have a green checkbox or a red stop sign. So pretty neat to already on the map see if you have completed it. We also use it for, and now we're touching the checker images. We're also using it inside our what's so-called advanced checker image. It's an image, as you mentioned, that links ProjectGC, links a checker and can exist on the cache page. On that image, we also show the same green checkbox or red stop sign. So already at geocaching.com could know if you complete the challenge or not. And finally, the data is used to calculate how difficult different challenges are. This is quite beta still, and well, I think the result is fairly good, but it's not perfect. It's not ideal to find how difficult the challenge is. But we have a statistical number of it, looking at all the users in the world, if they complete the challenge or not. And then we can see if 99% of all the users in the world complete it, it's an easy challenge. If 2 people in the world complete it, it's a very hard challenge. So we rate every challenge in a rating between 0 and 100, where 100 is the hardest. So finally you can see if they're hard or not.
Wow, that's an incredible amount of information to calculate. You know, I did a rough estimation. It's about 800 caches for each member, that each paying member of project-gc.com. That's a lot of processing to do in the background. And on top of that, to put the difficulty of the challenge on top of that. I love it. So that challenge checker image, that shows up on the web page as well, correct?
Yes, if the cache owner decides to. There are actually, the image is fairly new. I think there is about 400 of the images used this far on the 19,000 challenges, but it's increasing. I think we have increased from 300 to 400 the last 7 days. So I hope that we can see a few thousand of them in a few months. I think it's also a very convenient way for the cashier to know if he has completed it or not, because sometimes it's hard to understand the descriptions, especially if you are in another country. Also, you have a very clear way to see here is the checker, and not have to read through endless of text where maybe half of it is very detailed rules. So, but yes, and I can try to explain those checker images a bit more detailed. First off, it looks a bit like you mentioned, a image that links, for example, geocheck.org. I'm not sure what mystery checker site is the biggest one in the USA, but geocheck.org is very big in Europe. So just like those images, it links something for GC. In this case, it links the checker. So you more or less press the image if you're already authenticated for GC. You just enter your profile name and click I don't know what the button set is. It doesn't say search, it doesn't say filter, it says run checker, I think. The computer processes, maybe it takes a second, and you get an example log back. If you have completed it. If you have not, it might give you some feedback and say you miss this or you miss that and so on. So the image itself, it has a lot of details. On the right side of it, there's a green and red field, much like the mystery checker images usually has. It shows you how many who has run the checker has either fulfilled the requirement or has not fulfilled it. It's only for the manual checks. We are not counting those or increasing those counters for all the automatic checks we're running, because that would be thousands per day. So, excuse me, it would just be crazy numbers. Then on the top of the image, there's a black skull with a number after it. This is the GC difficulty rating of the challenge. If it doesn't exist, it means that we don't have data enough for that certain challenge. But we usually have it at least in the bigger countries, like Germany, USA, Sweden, Czech Republic, and so on. But the smaller countries, we might miss the data. We're calculating this data with a lot of different values that we dig up that are weighted differently let's see, against each other. For example, we calculate the difficulty for users all over the world, but we're also trying to focus on very local caches around the challenge. A good example could be that you need to find 100 caches within the state of Texas. If you would only look at users all over the world, it would look very difficult, because most users don't have finds in Texas. But we are then trying to give a bigger weight into the users who live close to it. So that, because it probably is quite easy to actually find 100 caches in Texas, I assume. I hope that makes sense. I have a hard time to explain it. But we have a lot of different factors that we weigh in. And as I mentioned, it's still in beta, so we might adjust those numbers a bit more. But I've been looking through a long list of 19,000 challenges, and I think it gives decent values at least. So back to the checker image. On the left side of the image, the paying members of Project GC can, as mentioned, see if we have completed the challenge or not. And this is on the geocaching.com website. There will be either a red stop sign or a green checkbox. So I find that myself very convenient.
Yeah, I like the idea of that. And that's something, though, that's only going to be available on the cache page if that cache owner has put the code into their page so that you can have that automatically checked.
Yes, exactly. and I hope it will be more popular. I see a lot of cache owners who actually want these, or they really want them, because it makes it more convenient for them as well. They have a very black and white yes or no if the user's completed it or not.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
instead of asking them to send the cache owner GPX file and they should go through that and check, or everything the cache owner has to do, it's very complex normally. We are providing both the end user and the cache owner with a very convenient way to see if it's fulfilled or not.
Terrific. And I do like the idea of coming back with that example code, because there's a number, or example log on the checker too, because there's a number of those caches where I'm asked to do something like list the caches that qualify me for that, or list the day that I've done whatever. So having that pulled back out saves me a lot of that effort of, okay, yeah, I've qualified, but now I have to figure out what I qualified with in order to write out the log.
Yes, I agree. And to be honest, there is some improvement to make there. Since we then have this script and tag division, we do have a lot of tags which doesn't really give the correct log feedback to the user. I think this is some form of temporary period, and that we will fix that in the long run. But for example, there are some cases where the checker might, we take a simple one, find 100 caches in the county of New York. Then maybe the script actually outputs all the 100 finds as a long list. That's not very convenient, but it works with 100 geocaches. Then the same script is used in another place that says find 5,000 caches in Texas, and the script will again output 5,000 GC codes, and you do not put 5,000 GC codes into a log.
No, but you have them to prove that you actually did it.
Yes, that's a good point. But we honestly have a lot of tags that don't really give the output that the cache owner requires. But I see this as a temporary thing that we will go through. And in the long run, we do have more plans, of course. So there are plans of upvoting and downvoting checkers and so on. So I hope that in the long run we'll find that we do have checker and tags that actually are compliant with what the cache owner wants.
Excellent. And it's always a work in progress. But we do have a few questions in our live Q&A, so let's start off with one from Wet Coaster. And he asks, to ask for a new challenge checker, do you just have to give the GC code or explain what's required as well?
Well, a great question. So I'll take a long answer as usual. First off, ProjectGC has different support systems. Or maybe I should start with saying that we who build ProjectGC does not develop the checkers. They are done by the community, and the community should have the credit. With that said, there is no ID to actually contact the support behind ProjectGC. But ProjectGC has two support systems. We have one thing that we call the community support, and we have one support system that is a bit more private, or it's 100% private. You send it to us, it's only we who read it. Perfect for issues with payments, for example, or something that you don't want to share with others. But the community support system, in there we have a special category where it's called checker requests. If you post there, you will have a lot of script writers and taggers who will read your post. If they decide to make a checker for it or not, it of course depends on how good your information is. If you just write checker for GCX, please, then they might think you're a bit stale and not really like it. But you might also get lucky, to be honest. They are very dedicated, those who fixes them. But it is a good idea to give some form of basic description. If the cache description is in another language than English, you're improving your chances a lot if you actually describe what is needed. But using our community support system is the best way to get the checker for you. You find it by pressing our support buttons and following the flow there. The support button exists at almost every page.
Then Limax asked, I'm trying to remember, is the information for contacting the challenge checker author on the checker itself?
Yes. On the page for the checkers, there's a quite long description, and it more or less says that it describes the concept itself, but it also says that if you have any issues with the checker, you should first-hand contact the tag owner. And at this page, there will be a message link both to the tag owner and the script owner. The messaging works via geocaching.com with their messaging system as it is today. That might change in the future since we now have our own messaging system as well. But first hand, it's the tag owner that you should contact, because the script owner has just written the code and he has not written it for a specific GC code.
Very good. Now, getting back to some of the stuff that's actually changed, I've been kind of away from Project GC since probably September, and one of the things that I noticed is the menus have changed a lot, and there's a little bit more clarity now than there used to be.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it, actually. I was fairly happy with, or I was a lot happier with that change. First off, they're a bit lighter, so it looks more happy, or less dark, maybe I should say. It's not as depressing as before. I think it's easier to find things in the menus now, but I'm still not really satisfied, so at some point we will rework it again, but probably less that time. But yes, we have something called mega menus now, so you pull down a menu and you can see different subcategories, and I hope it's easier to find them now. We have gotten quite a lot of good positive feedback.
Oh, it's much easier to use. And I just went on and looked at the challenge map and saw all the challenges that I had qualified for by just looking at the map. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I had one of those experiences myself a while ago. There was a new challenge trail released in Florida, I think, which I found on the map. And it's a trail of 100 challenges. And it was a real joy to already on the map see that, oh, I complete about 70 to 80% here, and I could see which ones, instead of actually having to read about all of them. And I don't know what the average time is to figure out if you complete the challenge or not, but I guess many takes about 15 minutes. I guess I would have several days to figure that out if I didn't have Project GC.
Without a doubt. And, we talked earlier about the challenge check or the reviewer checker. Some of those are incredibly hard to come across. What reviewer, approved which cache? But using a little chunk of code, it does it so much quicker.
Yes, I could imagine scrolling down through my 8,000 finds, finding the last log, starting to write notes. Yeah, I guess it would take hours. But a checker like that probably runs in less than 0.1 second at Project GC.
That's a shame. That's a downright shame.
But yeah, some cache owners actually finds the joy in people having the issue to actually figure out if they complete it or not. So there are both sides of the story. Mm-hmm. I personally think the difficulty should be in completing the challenge, not knowing if you complete it or not. And as I interpret the guidelines from Groundspeak, I think they kind of agree. It says something about that it should be easy to understand and easy to know that you qualify.
Well, and tools like this certainly help to make it easy to understand if you qualify. But I was just thinking, is there like a quick reference for the paid members where they could just get a list of the challenges that they've qualified for, seeing as you're running that, or do you have to go to the map to see those?
As it is today, the map is the best place, and it's found in the menu Tools and then Challenge Map. And the map itself is for paying members only.
Got it. So yeah, only the paying members will have that benefit. And again, that's just because it takes so much resources, so many resources to be able to do that.
Yes, that's probably our heaviest product today. But on the topic or on your question, we do have some future ideas as well. We have had this idea for quite a while, and it's about sending you an email or some form of notification every time you complete a new challenge in your nearby area, an area you define yourself.
Well, that's very cool. I have the feeling, I don't go out and actively track down challenges, so I have the feeling I'd be discovering I qualify for a whole bunch more because I'm looking at the map just around my current condo, and well, there's like two probably within 2 or 3 miles of me that I qualify for that I haven't gone and logged yet.
Yeah, I think it's like that for many. I myself, I try to focus on challenges more or less. I have a small issue with geocaching, and it's that there are traditional caches everywhere these days. So in some way you have to choose what to geocache. So I try to collect a lot of different DT loops, so filling the DT matrix all over again, over again. And I also find the challenges to be something I can cherry pick. But I really can't cache it all like you could several years ago.
Well, I think we all fall in that boat.
Yeah, depending on where you live, I think. There are still places where geocaching isn't that popular yet, so you actually can find everything within some miles. But for me, it doesn't feel like fun to actually find every film canister in every sign.
Well, getting back to the paid membership thing, because this is something that's very useful, one of the other new features that was added since we talked last was a referral program. So if you are a paid user, you can get credit for referring other people.
Yeah, that is true. I don't remember when we added it, but we do have that system. It more or less works like someone who already has a membership. They go into the home menu and then membership, and they get their referral link from there. They send it to a friend. If he chooses to buy a membership using that link, the buyer will get some extra months to their membership, and the referrer will also get an extra month. I think the buyer gets 2 extra months per year, and the referrer gets 1 extra month. So if you refer to 12 users per year, you're set for life.
Very nice. So everyone use our referral links. No, just kidding. Now, we did have another question pop up in the live Q&A from Limax. I've noticed some bugs in in some of the ones near me. I'm a bit cautious about using a computer checker yet. I found one that says I've qualified for finding a cache hidden every day of the year, but my Project GC stats shows differently.
Without actually investigating the issue for real, I have a hard time answering it. But I have 2 things to say on the topic. Project GC, maybe 1. The checkers are written by the community. There is no guarantee that they're working today. As I mentioned, we will at some point start implementing some form of voting system, and hopefully we'll get those downvoted that doesn't work. I don't know if there are many. I don't think so. But otherwise, I think it should be the same. Actually, I would be interested in looking into that. So, Limax, feel welcome to send some details to our support, and we will investigate it.
Well, and again, that seems like something where contacting the author of that checker, that I've already forgotten the tag, would probably be appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe, depending on what the error is. So feel free to contact our support, and we can actually check why it differs as well. Normally we don't do it like that because we want to crowdsource it and use the checker creators for it, but it sounds like something I can check in a few minutes, so just contact our support and we'll look into it and most likely figure out why at least.
All right, and then next we had another question from White Coaster. With respect to the checker map, is there a legend describing what the different icons mean?
Let's see. To be honest, I don't really understand the question, or I understand the English behind it, of course. But from the top of my head, as the checker map looks, it has cache icons that represent the different cache types, like the normal geocaching.com map. We have 3 different colors or background colors on those icons, and I think that is described. But anyway, the green means that the checker exists. Let's see, the red probably means that a checker does not exist. And we have some future IDs of or is it yellow and green? I don't remember. There are 2 colors. One for checker exists and one for that it does not exist. I think it's green and yellow. And in the future, we plan to have red to mean that a checker is not possible to create for this challenge. Then all the cache icons that Project GC has some corner icons. I don't know if that is what he's thinking about. It's much like CGeo works. So in the top right corner, that could be a small smiley or a yellow star, meaning that you either have found the cache or own it. There is a pen in one of the corners, meaning you have a cache note. There could be a green checkbox down to the left, meaning you have corrected coordinates. Small things like that. But I'm actually unsure of what the question actually relates to.
Well, I think that's actually what he was looking for, is what do the colors mean, what do the icons in the various locations mean. So I think you might have answered his question.
Let's hope so then.
All right. Well, with that, we're running a little bit long, and it's pretty early in the morning over there, and I think you need your sleep.
Well, I don't know. I don't feel tired anymore.
Because you love Project GC, and just talking about it energizes you.
Probably. That must be it. Or maybe it is because I'm not used to sleep twice per day.
All right. Well, hey, one last question then before we let you go. If someone who owns a challenge cache wants to go and put together the checker and put that on their page, is there a quick, easy tutorial on how they could do that?
No.
Okay.
Was that a bad answer? No, there isn't. But first off, that person needs to contact our support to be able to make a script if he wants to write the code himself. With that answer he will get instruction on how to write it and links to our documentation and such. If a check already exists and he wants to add the icon, he should visit the page where we have the checker. It's pretty much you're going to Tools menu, Challenges, you search for the GC code, for example, and then there will be a button that says Link. If he presses that, he will see 3 different icons he can use, and the HTML to actually use it.
Excellent. And then when you're developing a cache, do you have to have the cache published before you can create the checker, or could you create a checker for a cache that has yet to be published?
Oh, that's a great question. You're good at this. You can create the checker before the cache is published, with the only downside that you will tell the community that there will be such challenge. They probably don't know much about it. They'll not know where it is and so on, but they could find the Czech report GC before the challenge is published.
Excellent. All right, and before we do go, White Coaster replied that he was referring to the colors, the red X through the shield, the red dot through the horizontal line, and yes, you did answer the question. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
So that's all available at project-gc.com. And thank you again very much for joining us. We love getting this update because it is such a great tool that you can use from just about any device anywhere.
Well, thank you guys, and thank everyone who has been listening.
And talking about listening or watching live, we do have a number of great shows coming up. And of course, we mentioned that all of the times are changing as of this Sunday because of daylight savings time. So if you're not changing your time zones, your relative time to ours might change. So remember, these are recorded Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So March 12th is our next show, and that's going to be Randomize 32. Then on the 19th, we're back for episode 168, Attending Megas, and Dave Bedware is going to join us to talk about things that we need to think about when we're going to attend a mega event. On the 26th, we're going to be talking with the hosts of one of those mega events, hopefully a giga event, Geo Woodstock 13. Then April 2nd, this is going to be a fun show. It's Foolish Cachers. We're looking for the stories of your silly mistakes that you've made when you're out caching and how they could be avoided. So hopefully we can let everyone know some of the stuff to look out for and avoid those mistakes that you might have made yourself. Well, and of course, have a little bit of fun poking at you. Then on the 9th of April, episode 171 is going to be Puzzler 26. He's a noted hider in the Metro Detroit area, and we're going to have him live in the Metro Detroit studio to talk about his really cool, clever hides. And boy, you know, Chris, when you were out here, we really wanted to do one of those hides and didn't have a chance to do it. I would love to have shown you these things because he does such remarkable things with those containers.
Great. Now I got to make another trip out there, Daryl.
You
know
do.
what, though? It may just be worth it.
You know, it could be. And I think we have a Australian listener who's going to be coming in largely just to do those puzzles.
You're kidding me. All the way from Australia just to do a single cacher's hides?
That's a story I'm going to go with.
Okay. I'd buy that. Now, it's time to get your email client all fired up and ready, because I'm going to tell you how you can win an issue of FTF Geocacher magazine, and not only that, a path tag along with it. Now how much would you pay? First, get a new email ready and address it to GeoGearHeads@CacheManiacs.com. Next, give it the subject, question 167. In the body, you need to answer the question, in which year was the first cache in, trash out event? After that, include your geocaching.com screen name, and did we say email that to GeoGearHeads@CacheManiacs.com with the subject 167. Now, times are changing. Well, daylight savings times are changing. So that's 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time or 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the 11th. That's 1 a.m. on the 12th in the UK, or even 2 a.m. in Sweden. That's just for you, Magnus. Your name will be entered into a drawing for that magazine and path tag as long as you have the right answer for the year of the first CITO event. Good luck, and thanks to FTF Geocacher magazine for donating that prize.
Check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback at calling 206-350-3647, by emailing geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com, or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniacs shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Offenauer and Daryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2015 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.